Tonight we're going to discuss order of operations involving fractions. We worked on this in class today, so tonight's video is just a follow-up from class, and you were given 4 problems to work out for homework. And what I'm going to do on this video is just walk you through those 4 problems. So first of all, our objective is I can apply the order of operations to add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions. And we remember our rules for signed integers. When you're adding integers, you ask yourself, are the signs the same or are the signs different? If the signs are the same, you find the sum. If the signs are different, you find the difference. You keep what you have more of. For subtraction, you just add the opposite, then follow the addition rules. Multiplication and division. A positive times a positive is a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. A positive times a negative is a negative. And a negative times a positive is a negative. And then we talked about our order of operations. Step 1 is to work within parentheses first. Step 2 is to take care of any exponents that are involved. Step 3 is to multiply or divide, and we discussed in class that is left to right. And finally, you want to add or subtract, and that again is left to right. And those are the 4 steps that we follow to solve order of operations problems. Let's take a look at from class today. 2/3 plus 1/4 times negative 2/3. Again, we'll work within parentheses first. So within this first set of parentheses, I need to add these 2 fractions. I'm going to find a common denominator. My common denominator would be 12. So I'm going to multiply the denominator and the numerator of my first fraction by 4, and the denominator and the numerator of my second fraction by 3. That's how I'll come up with my common denominator of 12. 2 times 4 is 8/12, plus 1 times 3 is 3/12. And then we'll be multiplying that by negative 2/3. We don't have a single answer within the parentheses here first, so we must get a single value. 8/12 plus 3/12, 8 plus 3 is 11, so that's 11/12. Times a negative 2/3. So now all we have is multiplication. And we talked before, if it's a positive times a negative, we know our result will be negative. So I know my final answer will be negative. I like to simplify. So here I see 2 can go into 12. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 12 6 times. We then multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. 11 times 1 is 11. 6 times 3 is 18. So our final answer is negative 11 over 18. So that's the first one on tonight's homework. Let's look at the next one. This is the next problem you had for homework. 3/4 minus 2/3, and then within parentheses, 1/2 plus 2/5. Again, we'll start within parentheses. We don't want to handle this subtraction until almost the very end. So we need to work within parentheses first. If we're adding fractions, they must have a common denominator. What would a common denominator between 2 and 5 be? It would be 10. So I'll multiply this denominator and this numerator by 5, this denominator and this numerator by 2. So again, I still have 3/4 minus 2/3. And in parentheses, I now have 5/10 plus 4/10. So I still have my 3/4 minus my 2/3. And now 5/10 plus 4/10, I must come up with a single fraction within my parentheses before I can move on. 5 plus 4 is, that's 9/10. I then look here and see what operations I have running around. I have subtraction running around. And when I don't see an operation between the 2/3 and the 9/10 is in parentheses, I know that must be a multiplication. Again, I need to multiply before I worry about subtracting. I can choose to multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom, or I can choose to simplify first, and that's what I'm going to do. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 9 3 times. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 10 5 times. And then straight across the top, straight across the bottom. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 5 is 5. I still have my subtraction sign here. And I still have my 3/4 right out in front. So now I'm going to subtract these fractions. I must find a common denominator. So I'll multiply numerator and denominator of this by 5. I will multiply my numerator and denominator of the second fraction by 4, because the common denominator will be 20. 3 times 5 is 15 20ths, minus 3 times 4 is 12 20ths. What's 15 minus 12? I believe that's 3. So 3 20ths is the answer on that one. Let's try the next one. 4 9ths minus 1/3 times 1 1/4. Well, as I look at this problem, I need to multiply before I subtract. Also, we've talked about the fact that when you have mixed numbers, you need to rewrite them as improper to multiply. So I still have my 4 9ths minus my 1/3 times 1 1/4. So if I have one whole and another fourth, how many fourths do I have? So I look at one whole, and then I look at another fourth. So this is 1 1/4 is how many fourths? So I have one whole circle, a fourth of another circle. How many fourths do I have? 1 2 3 4 5 fourths. So 1 1/4 is the same as 5 fourths. We know we can do that by doing 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1 is 5, and that still gets us to the 5 fourths. At this point, we need to multiply before we subtract. There's no simplification that can occur, so I just multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. I come up with 5 12ths. Keep my minus sign, keep my 4 9ths. So now I say to myself, okay, I need to find a common denominator. What would be a common denominator between 9 and 12? Actually, 36 would work. So if I multiply the denominator here by 4, I must multiply the numerator by 4. 12 times what is 36? Well, 12 times 3 is 36. So if I multiply the denominator by 3, I need to multiply the numerator by 3. So over here we have 16 over 36 minus 15 over 36. 16 minus 15 is just 1 over 36. One more problem to try and then we'll be done. This is our last problem of the night. Again, we'll work within each set of parentheses to start. Within this set of parentheses, my common denominator should be 12. So I'll multiply that denominator by 4, which forces me to multiply that numerator by 4. I'll multiply this denominator by 3. So to get an equivalent fraction, I must also multiply the numerator by 3. So I have negative 2 in parentheses, 4 12ths plus 3 12ths minus, and then in this set of parentheses, in order to subtract these, I need to find a common denominator. My common denominator would be 4. So I'm going to multiply the numerator and denominator of that first fraction by 2 over 2. So that's 2 2/4 minus 1 1/4 inside that set of parentheses. Now I'm going to go on to my next step. I need to get a single value within this set of parentheses. 4 plus 3 is 7. So that's 2 times 7 12ths minus, inside this set of parentheses, 2 minus 1 is 1. 2 minus 1 is 1, so that's 1 1/4. And now I have a single value within that parentheses. I can continue to put the parentheses around it. I don't have to. Doesn't make a difference. Here, though, what's the operation between the negative 2 and the 7 12ths? Oh, that's multiplication. What do I need to handle first, multiplication or subtraction? I need to handle multiplication first. So 2 is the same as 2 over 1. I like to simplify. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 12 6 times. Straight across the top, straight across the bottom. I have 7 6ths. A negative times a positive is a negative, so that's negative 7 6 minus 1 1/4. I think as a strategy here, I might choose to rewrite this as an improper, or I could have chose to write that as a mixed. But I'm going to write this second one as an improper. So for subtraction, negative 7 6, I'm going to keep, change. I'm going to keep the negative 7 6, change the subtraction to addition, and make that second number a negative. So then I have negative 7 6 plus, I'm just going to write this as an improper. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1 is 5 fourths. Then I have to come up with a common denominator. The common denominator would be 12. That was a negative, so I got to make sure I keep my negative. So 6 times 2 is 12. And 4 times 3 is 12. So I'm just rewriting each with a common denominator of 12. Negative 7 times 2, that's negative 14 over 12. Plus a negative 15 over 12. 15 and 14 signs are the same. Find the sum. 15 and 14, I believe, is 29, so that's a negative 29 over 12. And now how many times does 12 go into 29? Well, first of all, the answer will still be negative. 12 goes into 29 twice. 2 times 12 is 24, so we have 5 left over. Negative 2 and 5/12. So that's the last problem for tonight. Hopefully that helped walk you through. For those of you who needed support, try to have a good night. Take care.